شكرا لك، يعطيك العافية. ما أبغى أطول عليكم. already late a little bit، بس قبل ما أبدأ بس أبغى أتأكد إن everything is clear. Is it clear? If you have any comment, please type it في الشات بوكس. وطبعا بالنسبة للوركشوب أو البرزنتيشن it's not a lecture يعني. ف if you have any question إذا في أي سؤال أي استفسار just let me know. أوكي، في عندنا عدد ممتاز. أوكي ممتاز، it's all clear. حلو، ممتاز، يعطيك العافية. فبالنسبة للبرزنتيشن الكل هنا he speak Arabic و English صح؟ just to make sure إن everyone is speaking Arabic. If there is anyone who speak only one language just let me know عشان أعرف كيف راح how we will go through the presentation. Everyone speak Arabic and English صح؟ إذا في أحد who speak يتكلم لغة واحدة يعطيني خبر عشان أحاول إني just to try to focus mainly in this presentation. It could be in English لأن التارجت عادة راح يكون medical student or dental student or anyone in the medical field who is planning to apply for a job or for a postgraduate program after they finish their bachelor degree. Let me just go ahead and we will start with our presentation. I want just to present myself in a short resume. My name is Haidar Alalawi. I'm a consultant prosthodontist, which means a dentist who deal with fixed removable prosthesis or implant dentistry. I'm already an assistant professor in the Department of Substitute of Dental Sciences in the Imam Abdurrahman bin Faisal University. I'm a director of documentation unit and the associate director of the prosthodontic fellowship program, and American and Canadian board certified prosthodontist. So in this presentation, I'll talk about just a brief outline. Actually, in the beginning, I would like to thank Dr. Mohammed Al for inviting me to present this topic that we did a workshop of 2 hours about. So this is just like a short version of the hands-on real-time workshop. So in this small lecture, I'll talk about some introduction, talking about definition, type of CVs, and then component of a good CV. What do you want to add in your CV? And some literature review. As an academic worker, I like to review the literature whenever I do anything to look for the most recent articles regarding it. And I'll give you some writing tips, and at the end I'll just give you some practical steps where you need to go ahead and start. As I mentioned, if you have any question, please just raise it in the chat box, so it will be more interactive lecture. So first of all, we need to know what is the goal and why we are doing the CV. And I want to tell you that your CV will be the key to your job interview. And this is what Dr. Mohammed will talk about in the next hour, which is having a job interview. But before that, if you don't have a good CV, believe me, there is a big effect of the CV in getting accepted for interview or not. So if you do a good CV, you might have a chance to get accepted for interview. If not, then you might lose the job, even if you have the skills. But if you don't have the skills of writing good CV, then this is one thing that you need to learn. So usually it represents you when you are not there. So when they are reviewing your CV, choose your accomplishment, state your ability. Also, it should be it is in written form, and as I mentioned, it's a good area of discussion during your interview, because the reviewer, the one who will interview you for a job or for a scholarship program, we need some point to discuss. So these are a good point to start from. okay? And it demonstrates what you can do for the program or for the job that you are applying to. Just remember before we start, there is not really a right way to write a CV. There are different ways to write CVs. And your CV might be completely different than anyone else. And this is the beauty of it. Like, you need to customize your own CV, okay? But at the end, there are some things that will make the viewing easier and it will look more professional, okay? So you need to include these things. This is what we are going to talk about. Just trying to focus on the main things that you need to add in your CV, and the rest, you should spend more time to customize it to your skills, okay? Why to work in your CV? I think some of you are already a student, or you are interns, or maybe you already finished, you're working now and you are planning to apply for a program. So why to start now? If you are a student, it's the right way to start. Start as soon as possible. Why? Because time goes fast. You don't know when you reach to the last year, you would see that you have a lot of things that you need to write or to remember, because you might do some simple thing. You think that they are not important, but at the end, you might need to include them in your CV. It helps you to organize important things for your future career, and it will assist you in setting goals, and at the end, it assists in getting letter of recommendation. If you are planning to get a letter of recommendation, most of the people will ask you for your CV, so they can customize a good letter of recommendation which fit your experiences and skills. As a definition, the CV or curriculum vitae is a Latin word which means the course of life. So this is what does that term mean. And what we mean by it, it's a document which gives an overview about your experiences and qualification, okay? Is there any type of CV? Yes, there are different types of CVs. The traditional one that we know and we usually use for academia or application for promotion is the traditional one, which is the reverse chronological, which means you start from the most recent thing that you got and then you go to the older one. There are different types, which is skills-based, which means that based on your skill. If you are applying to a technical job which need skills like a dental technician, for example, you want to show your skills in your CV. And the last one that you can use it is the targeted one, which means you are trying to target a specific job, okay, or a specific position. So you try to highlight the most important thing to that job owner, okay? I'll go very quickly on each one of them. The traditional one, it lists the work experience. It presents information, as I mentioned, the most recent first. Keep standard headings, like you have education, experience, achievements, and easy to organize and demonstrate. And this is what I would prefer. And this is what I'm going to demonstrate in this presentation, okay? Because this is the most commonly used type. Skill-based, as I mentioned, it is demonstrating evidence of your relevant skills, and it gives just a brief work experience. So the focus of this type is on the skills, okay? The other type, which is the targeted, usually have career objectives, because you are trying to target a specific position, okay? And it's highly focused and responsive to the need of the employer, what they are looking for as a job position, okay? So if you are targeting a specific position, you need to make sure that you try to do your CV as a targeted CV, okay? We always know and see that people, sometimes they call it CV, some people they call it resume. Is there any difference between these two? Yes, there are differences. So the first thing that we should know that a resume usually a shorter version of your CV. and usually 1 or 2 pages, which include a summary of your skills, experiences, and education. Okay, while in the CV, it is a longer version where you have provide more details about all the experiences that you have. Okay. Also, another different, the CV usually include, as I mentioned, the educational academic background and experiences, and also include some publications if you did any publication related to research, presentation in conferences, honors and awards, and all other details. Usually in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia, usually the employer are looking for a CV. So they are looking for a long, detailed CV. When we compare to the United States, they usually look for a resume if you are applying to a regular job. But if you are applying for an academia, like you're applying to be a professor in a university, then you have to have a CV, even in the United States. Okay, and whenever you have a CV, which has all the details, then you will be able to make a resume very quickly, just trying to shorten it and make it more focused to a specific job. This is just a summary of the difference between the CV and the resume. So in the CV, usually it is more toward the academia, and the content contain the academic history, teaching, publication, research, awards, usually as long as necessary. This is the length. It focused on academic achievement and scholar studies, and usually you will have references in this one. So you will try to add one or two of your mentors that supervise you during your studies, for example. So one of the most important things that we need to look for is what the job employer is looking for. Okay, so they are looking for skills, experiences, and some educational accreditation. And so if you try to address their need, you will be able to get accepted. Okay, so you need to look for the job, and if you are applying to a company, for example, or for a school, you need to know what is the vision and aim and goal for this school. If you know what the school is looking for and what they are trying to do as a vision and mission, then you will try to address these needs. Okay, so if you have some skills that will support the vision or the goal of the school, then you will be able to convince the employer that you are the best one to be selected for interview. Okay, and they will discuss these things with you during your interviews, of course. So you have to make sure that whatever you write in your CV is a real thing, okay, not something that you think about. So in your CV, you need to answer these 3 questions. How do your skills match the job description? So whenever they announce a job in the website, they will tell you this is what they are looking for. So you need to make sure that your skills will match their request. Also, how does your experiences meet or exceed the requirement that they are requesting? And your education, of course, you should have the minimum or exceeding the requirement for application. Because without these, the chance of getting the chance to have interview is very low. So if we talked about a good CV, then we need to make sure that we have specific contents, and you need to make sure that the content or the quality of the content that you have is good. It means that you have good certificate, good experience, good skills that you want to add to that CV. Everything has to be positive, which is reinforcing your application, and point of agreements, which means that how and why you meet their requirements. Okay, and at the end, that I will just shed the light on at the end of this presentation is the style, the layout, how easy to go through that CV, because you don't want to have lines stacked one under the other, so you don't have any space between the lines. It will be difficult to read. Okay. So these are the main contents that I will discuss one by one for your CV. So of course you need to add your name and address and some contact information. If you need to include some career objectives, also this could be added at the beginning of your CV. Experiences, employment history, and also very important part if you are applying for a program like a scholarship program is the scientific research activity, which means publications and etc., or contribution to conferences like a poster presentation, for example. And if you get any award, you have to make sure that you also present that skills, contribution to scientific conferences, volunteer work or community work, other activity and references. Okay, so I'll go one by one over all these and try to discuss what thing that we need to add. Some of them is very clear, and some of them you need just to add a little bit of concern about all of some specific parts. So these are the sections or the main headings in your CV. So we talked about the name and the general information and the contact information. This is a must, of course. Another one is the educational, and always has to be the first part. Okay, so you have to have your educational certificates, honors and awards. If you have any awards, then try to push it in the beginning, because this what will make you different than any other applicant, because you have some awards. Professional experiences, if you worked anywhere, publications and presentation, which include research, and extracurricular activity or volunteering work, and some interest. These parts are very important. If you go to the other part, which is optional, it's not really important, but you can add them if you want. We can start with objectives, certifications, professional affiliation, and also activities and other qualification if you have. So this is just an example that I'm using to describe how we would do it. Usually we would prefer to have some tables. So this having tables in your CV will arrange it and make it much easier to read. So in the first part, which is the personal information, you have to include your full name, permanent address, and email, and make sure that your email is a professional email. Okay. So if you don't have a professional email, please try to create one. So at least when they read the email, they know that this is something professional. And your contact information, like phone number, for example. Career objectives. This is, as I mentioned, it's not a mandatory part, but still you can have it in your CV. And what is it is usually what you are really looking for in the position. You're just telling them why I am the best candidate for this position. Okay, how to structure it. If you know how to structure it very well, this is good. If you don't know, it might not be a good way to add. Okay, so for the career objectives, it has to have it has to emphasize the general trait that about your character, personality, and work ethics. And usually we try to divide it into three parts. The first part is the self-introduction via mentoring your strongest provable traits. So you want to mention what are the skills that you have, and you want them to see that, and you have a proof for them. Okay. The second part is telling them the hiring manager which role you want to fill. Okay, what do you want to do for the company, and emphasizing that you are reliable and have the company goals in your mind. And this is what I mentioned, that you need, when you apply to a specific job, make sure that you know the goal and vision and mission of that company, okay, or college, for example. So this is an example of the career objectives. If we just go through it, you can see that this example says hardworking student with high GPA with proven leadership and organizational skills and minute attention to details, seeking, and this is the first part, by the way. Then this is the second part, which is seeking to apply my abilities to fill the internship pool in your company. So these are the skills that you are trying to fill the position, and I'm dedicated to team player who can be relied on to help your company to achieve their goal. Okay. If we just highlight these are exactly the three components that I just talked about, which is introducing yourself and your strongest trait, and then telling them what role you want to fill, and then why you are reliable. Okay. Educational qualification, it is exactly the certificate or what academic certificate you already have. So, and it should be written in reverse chronological order, which means the most recent first and then going to the older one. GPA is just optional, and try not to add it in your CV. You can attach it as an attachment, but in the beginning, you don't need to include it in your CV, okay? Year of graduation, also any special awards or outstanding achievement during your academic studies, okay? If you got like the best student or anything related to your graduation, so you have to include it in your CV. And this is the first part, which is the academic or educational qualification. When you go to the second part is the professional experience, okay? So where exactly you worked, okay? So state the employer, where did you work, position, what are the responsibility you had, and the duration, okay? And what are the key achievements that you already did. Be sure to include the name of the company, position, and all what we mentioned. This is an example, the job rank, place, where did you work, and the address and the date from specific month to a specific month, and with the year, of course. Okay. Some honors and award, as I mentioned, awards usually demonstrate the achievements to employers. So you achieved something, you got a result out of your hard work. And usually same thing, you list the most recent first. You need to add the title, date, when did you receive that award. It's not just you received an award, so you have to have all the details. Go back to undergrad, but not before, okay? So don't go anything before your college studies, like the secondary school or the primary school. So you don't need all of these. So you need anything after your college studies, okay? Academic and professional, okay? Administrative work, this part could be supporting the other skills that you might need in your job, or because most of the positions, if you are applying to a position to be working in a company or in a clinic or in a hospital, they need to see if you have some administrative skills, because you might need to hold a position in that school or in that hospital. Membership, just you need to add the professional and organization that you are a member of. For example, the Saudi Dental Association, if there is anything, an association related to your specialty, try to be a member and try to be active also in that society. So to attend their conferences and to try to participate in with poster and presentation in their meetings. So you will be active and in these associations. Research activity. I think this is one of the most important parts nowadays. If you apply to any program, they will try to look for your research activity. If you did anything, either a research paper or research poster in a conference. So you need to make sure that you have this part in your CV. Conferences, I'm sure all of you attended conferences related to your specialty, which proves that you are continually educating yourself. So you are still improving. You try to improve yourself in your specialty, your professionalism. Whether you are a nurse, you are a dentist, or a medical practitioner, so you need to make sure you add the conferences that is related to the targeted job. Let's say you are applying for a workshop, for a scholarship in for example, A&T, for example. So you need to make sure that you attend the workshop or conferences related to A&T, and you add them in the beginning. So just to show that you are active in attending these conferences. Some skills that you need to add also related, and make sure that they are related to the job or the opportunity that you are applying, like communication skills. If you need to work with a team, if you need to deal with computer, you need to mention if you are expert in computer skills. So all of these can be added in your CV. It's not in the beginning. It's not something really very important, but it can support your application. Voluntary work, which is a community activity. This is also a very important part. If you did any participation in any voluntary, either library work, organization of educational tours, community-based activities, all of these has to be listed, and you should present these also in your CV. Interest and hobbies. This is something additional if you would like to add. It's not really very important. So if you can add it and it will support your application, then try to add it. If not, then try not to add anything which is not important. I might create some problems for you, okay? And please avoid jokes and irrelevant hobbies, okay? So this is very important. That's why I'm telling you it's not very important, and sometimes it might have a negative feedback, okay? So if you are trying to add something which is not related to the job application. References, usually this is the end part of the CV, which includes the name, organization, and contact number of people that can act as a referees. So like a professor who taught you, or someone who you worked with and you know them very well, and make sure when you add them just to give them a call if they are willing to act as a referee for you. So somebody might call them actually and ask about you and ask about if all what you added in the CV is real or not, even before you are called for the interview. And believe me, a lot of people in the same field know each other, and they might know some of the people that you added them as a reference, and they might go ahead and ask them about you. So just make sure that you add people that are willing and they know you exactly very well. So now what I mentioned is just each individual part, if you remember. We start with educational, the professional experiences, with honors and awards. So all of these are the basic component of the CV. So what I'm going to go next is some literature review, or something related to what is available in the literature. And one of the questions that might raise to the mind of a lot of people, and we had a lot of applicants that had a lot of concern regarding this part, which is the GPA is the most important factor to get a scholarship? What do you think, the attendees? We have 26-1. So what do you think? Is the GPA very important? Is the most important one? Just yes or no? What do you think? Hussein said yes. Hadil said no. Okay. Anybody else? Athir said yes. So we have Hawra said no. So yeses and no. We have a lot of yes and no. So Ahmed, anybody else have any? Let's see how many yes, how many no's. We have 1, 2, 3 yeses, 3 no's. So we need somebody to finalize it. Who will say yes or no? No. Okay. So we have more no. If the GPA above 3.4, you can mention it. As I mentioned, if you have a good GPA, it's good to add it in your CV, but it's not very important to add the CV and not very important to add the GPA in the CV. Okay, try to avoid as much as possible, because even if your GPA is, let's say, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5, believe me, there are people who are applying into that program and they might have a GPA higher than what you have. But is it the most important factor? I'll tell you no. From even our experience in the program, we had hundreds of applicants. We reviewed their CVs, and then we selected people who their GPA, we selected them for interview. Their GPA was not the best, but their CV was promising. They worked on other things, not only their GPA. Let's go over the literature and see what does the literature say. So in this study, a study was conducted in 2020. It is a survey conducted on postgraduate applicants and scholarship programs. I'm sure a lot of you are trying to target a lot of scholarship program and postgraduate studies. So, and they have 124 responded. This is their results. So you can see the result. Let me just try to see. Yes. So I hope you can see the arrow that I am trying to move. So these are the things that were rated important or not important based on the percentage. So the respondent will mention that if the name is important or not to include. Almost 100%, everyone agreed that the name has to be there. Email address, phone number, above 80%. Home address, not all of them agreed. So almost 50% to add your home address. Nationality, gender, religion is not a very important, right? You see a lot of people say no, they don't want to add their religion. And some people, they don't want to add their marital status because this might affect your CV application to a scholarship program. Driving license, believe me, you don't need to have that in your scholarship application. Other educational and training backgrounds, high school is not very important. That's what I mentioned. Everything has to be from your undergraduate and above. Anything before, just remove it, okay? If you have any postgraduate studies, if you did anything like a fellowship or anything, try to include it because this is very important. You can see 97% said that this is important part. Very good grade and above, 80%, and this is what you already mentioned in the chat box. If you have a good GPA, it's good to add it, okay? Research and educational courses, it's good to add. Also management courses, not all of them. Training courses, not all of them agree, almost 50%. We have another part also, which is a more important part, I think, which is the publications. If you can see the publications, a lot of people, almost 96% say that you have to add your publication, okay? Regarding the age, it might give you a negative impact, but that's why, but at the end, it's not very, you have to include that in your CV. Most of the people, based on this study, almost 85% said that the age is important to add. And I don't think you can always try to avoid. This is just a question from Hadir, that is the age is very important or can impact my CV negatively? It's not always. So you need to think how to reinforce that all that time you spend, you try to improve your skills, improve. So you should try to use it as a positive or a strong value for yourself, that you have more experience than other people.